Sugar Bush for that sweet song and honoring our flag staffs. Pat St. Germain is carrying the women's staff, and Shawn Carr is carrying the Civic Center staff. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. I'm Babette Sandman from the Duluth Indigenous Commission. I'm the chair. And we are a group of volunteers. We filled out an application, and the mayor chose us to be on the commission so you could do this work with us if you're interested. I just want to say that I want to gently remind you that there was a time that we could not do this before 1978. There was a time this was all outlawed. And so as we stand here today, we remember our ancestors who fought hard for us to be here today so that we could feel good and proud as Indigenous people. So in their honor, we say it's a good day to be Indigenous. In their honor, we say that this is Indigenous Peoples' Day. I'm really happy to see all of you out there. Somebody came up to me and reminded me that there's a lot of politicians here and very important people. Thank you for supporting us today. Miigwech for being here. We're all important. Our next speaker is Renee, Nett, City Council President. She's our keynote speaker today.
Bonjour, hello everybody. My name is Renee Nett, City Council President for 2021. I want folks who are Native in the back there to come up closer. This is your territory. Don't stand in the back. Feel free to be up where we are. Please do that. Come forward if you would. Don't be shy about it. It's okay. I'll take care of it if it's an issue. As I said, Renee Nett, City Council President for 2021. Mashkiki, Makoi, Kwe, Indigenous Cause, Magizi Dodem, Obashi, Ndunjaba, Minua, Onegamin Singh, Duluth here. There are many things to talk about as a Native woman, and there's many things to talk about as Native folks. People don't often get the gist of what's going on in Indian country and why we struggle and what's going on in the struggle and why can't we just get it together. That's a lot of stuff to say, and there's no space to say it in. And this is what this is about right now. I talked and thought a lot about to bring this forward or not, and I worked many years in this subject when I lived in Ontario, Canada for a while, and I worked with many folks there who dealt with this issue. And then it snuck down here a little closer to home. And I started to learn about it, and that our families and the people you see and Native folks, it's in our DNA. It's like a blood memory that Chair Sandman always talks about from the Indigenous Commission. And I always think about city council work as nuts and bolts, meaning things that keep our city running and things that aren't so much social issues. And so I wrestle with that because as a Native woman who serves a city of 94% white town, I have to be valid in their eyes to do this work. And that's kind of where how I do the focus I do with Indigenous center and thinking. And how I do that work means that I think about my view as well as your view. And we have to do that. Native people have been forced to deal with that. And so we're coming forward now and thinking about how this work is done and how it reflects the community and how it affects everybody respectfully. And everybody in the broader community is also trying to figure that out. I acknowledge that folks fumble through it. Sometimes it's messy and sometimes it's hard. But that's okay. We are okay if you're coming from a good place with that. So bringing this forward, I did a little bit of thinking about it, talking to my elders and people who are involved, and people who are support, and people who may be opposed it. And while I'm knocking on doors because I'm up for re-election, people are really supportive of it. I thought, wow, we are in a different way and things are changing. And I thought, this feels so right. So I worked with the city staff, city attorney, and all the elected officials, Councillor Tamanik, who's here, Vice President Forsman, who would co-sponsor this resolution. And I'm talking about a resolution, sorry. So I'm bringing a resolution forward as council president, and the resolution will talk about resolution acknowledging the harm and ongoing historical and intergenerational trauma experienced by American Indian and Alaskan Native children and communities due to United States boarding school policy, calling the United States Congress to commission a study and report on boarding school policy and supporting efforts in reconciliation and addressing the impacts of historical trauma, language and cultural loss, and genocide. I was telling Senator Smith that I have walking orders for her, and she's like, thank you. She was happy to have them. So I'm looking forward to doing that and traveling this resolution forward, because I believe we're ready for that, and from this town particularly. Other parts of the country is willing to do this work. Seattle, Washington has done the same thing that we're doing, and I wanted to find places that were doing it and figure out how to build like a skeletal or a framework on how you say this without scaring everybody off and still letting folks know the real atrocities of what you're seeing and learning. And so I followed that with the attorney's office, and we wrote the resolution that I brought forward with the Indigenous Commission's support, and it's on the agenda for tonight, and we're going to chat about it and work through it and talk through it, and I think we're going to do just fine with it. Everybody's really, really great. The counselors I work with are amazing, and I feel lucky to be in this place with the administration and the staff and council. So I wanted to talk about that resolution and that the Indigenous Commission, I reached out to them earlier about this resolution, and they had a statement that sent to all council that said, we say, not this time. Not this time will another tragedy be known by most people in the community, and we are met with silence, swept under the rug, or dismissed with inaccurate statements like, that was 100 years ago. Not this time. This is happening to us right now. We are your community members, and we are grieving again and again. This time we want you to feel this with us. This time we want the United States to acknowledge what has happened to us. The people who are in the boarding schools or have ancestors who survived the boarding schools passed down trauma from generation to generation. This time we want you to know the impact on us today. Do not be silent. Not this time. We need you to acknowledge the harm and ongoing historical trauma that we are experiencing from the past, today, and the future. We can do something together today by passing this resolution for a better future for our children and families tomorrow. That's from the Indigenous Commission. Babette Sandman, Indigenous Commission Chair, Kassie Helgerson, Indigenous Commission Co-Chair, Roxanne DeLille, Commission Member, Phoebe Davis, Commission Member, Mary Villiard, Commission Member, Linnell Rabick, Commission Member. I thank the Indigenous Commission for taking up the charge I've asked of them. Very gracious, and I really, really appreciate that support going forward. The statement of purpose for this resolution will acknowledge the ongoing historical generation trauma impacting American Indians and Alaskan Native communities caused by federal government and boarding school policy. The Council calls on the United States Congress to establish a Truth and Healing Commission on Indian boarding school policy and investigate and document the history of human rights violations resulting from policy developed by removing children and mothers and fathers and grandparents and extended families and tribal communities and sending them to institutions where they suffer traumatic physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual harm. So in essence, what I'm going to ask from all of this language is that we want something done. And this town is 2.5% American Indian. We deserve that right. We deserve to ask that, and it's time for us to get that. And so I want to push this forward and have that conversation with our delegations moving upward, which means all the senators and different folks that move into those positions. And I think that it's time that we do that, and I think other states and other areas need to do it as well, for each other and for our families going forward. With that, I would just say, I received local testimony and emails about the issue and people have been sharing their family's history. It's real every day. People experience it every day, and the opposite of what you are seeing on the street sometimes is because of that. So with that local testimony, I know that it's right. Tonight, there's going to be a rally here at 6 p.m. The Indigenous Commission will be hosting that at AIM, American Indian Movement, and there will be opportunity for citizens to call into the council meeting. Anybody, all of you all can call into the council meeting and express your concern, your supports, or anything you want to say. And folks are welcome to speak, and I believe there's going to be a whole mess of activities at 6 here. And food, hey, food. So if you want to get involved or try to get on that meeting, try www.duluthmin.gov to get into the meeting and then be recognized to speak, and I'd be happy to. It's my job to welcome folks in to talk. I'll be happy to hear from everybody willing to speak. So I just want to say that much. Miigwech everybody for coming. I know there's more folks ready to speak. Miigwech.
Miigwech Renee Nett. She is a victory for our ancestors. Anytime any of us step forward and do that are Indigenous, people of color, and do this hard work, we really need to support that she's sitting at the table of the city council.
Vote for Renee!
We're very proud of her and the work she's doing. And she is a victory for our ancestors. The next speakers you're going to be hearing now are going to be giving snapshots of our amazing community, so you know what we do in our Indigenous community every day. And so we're going to be calling up Edie Washington, who will be talking about Masabakan. And so this will be a snapshot for you, a glimpse of us, of what we do.
Aning Inua, Lapuan Dunan, Gaja Kashwaja, Mekong and Dujba, Masabe Kong and Danubum. Nijabak Ninajanasa, Nina Benesikwe, Edie Washington, and Dishmaka Jaganashima. In the Nopi, Duluth Public Schools American Indian Education Department, gave Masabe Kong Ojibwe Immersion School. So I was asked to give a short snapshot on how we started our Masabe Kong Ojibwe Immersion School here in Duluth Public Schools. And a lot of you might know, or you might think it started in September of 2014. But it actually started, I'd say, in about the early 2000s. I was working with a group of youth out of Central High School, the building that's no longer in use today. I was working with a group of Native youth, and they were called Native Youth Agenda. And like a lot of you, a lot of us, going through the education system, we think about, how do we fit in? Do we fit in? Am I welcome here? And so one of the things that I did with the youth was a lot of community organizing strategies, because this is our community too. If you think about the history of the land that we're on, a lot of people want to argue and say this is Ojibwe territory, this is Lakota territory. It's Indigenous territory. So, back in the day when I was working with Native Youth Agenda, we talked a lot about how do we fit into this education system that we're put into. And we realized we have to look at our history, we have to look at our culture, and we have to look at our language. If we don't have our language, we don't have our culture, we don't have our history. So we sat and we talked, we discussed, we researched, we did a lot of work. And through that work, we started out looking at our history and saying, you know what, why does Duluth, Minnesota celebrate Columbus Day? And we did a lot of research. Back in the day, we worked with the Mayor Bergson, who was in office. And I want to say in the year 2005 was the first year that we got a proclamation from Native youth in Duluth proclaiming today as Indigenous Peoples Day. So I don't want to forget that. That's why I want to acknowledge our youth. Those youth are now grown up and parents, and some might still be here in our presence, and so I appreciate that. So back to Masabe Kong, and why are we doing this in Duluth Public Schools? From that I learned listening to our youth. I used to think when I was working with them that I was a youth. I wasn't. I'm old now. So, with the work that I did with them, we focus on history, language, and culture. We focus on what are some ways that we can really feel welcome, not only in our community, but in the education system that we're required to go through. And I thought, you know what, back in the early 2000s, we thought putting language in middle school and high school, Ojibwe language, was the answer. But I did go, we did go a little bit further thinking about it, and why don't we start younger? Why don't we start with our babies?
Yes.
Why don't we bring the language and the culture and education through the eyes of Indigenous people to our young people? Because that's how we've always done things historically as Indigenous people. So, when I started to work for Duluth Public Schools in 2011, they asked me, what is your dream? Why do you want to work here? And I told them, I want to work here because I want to make a change for our community and for our students in this public school system. And they said, if you could do anything in the world here, what would you do? And I said, I'd start an Ojibwe immersion program. Because if you want to talk about the history of the land, let's start with Ojibwe first. And I was given about 6 months to start the program. And it was hard. Because I had to consult with our elders. I consulted with community members trying to get support. Because something like this doesn't just happen by yourself. You have to have your community, your elders, you have to have a lot of people behind you. And so it took a lot of work, but I got it done. And I didn't do it alone. I, want to say miigwech to Majiguneash and Wabashki Makwa. They're both two first language speakers that helped guide me. My teachings is, to kind of sit back and listen to our elders. I was kind of one of the elders, and I thought, oh man, what am I doing? Like, I gotta step up and do something. I can't sit back forever and wait for other people to do it. So, for the love of our language, that's what I did. I was raised by a first language speaker who lived next door to me, and I called her my grandma. And she was the one that always told me, you know what, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget your language. If you don't have that, you don't have anything, and you're not going to make it. So that stuck with me since I was like in 5th grade. And so my ultimate goal was to start an immersion program in Ojibwe for our kids. And 8 years later, we're going into our 8th year. Believe me, it's been a struggle. You talk about putting in a language immersion in a public school with standards and all these other things that we have to follow. But one of the things that we do in a really, really good way is we look at the standards and we meet them through an Indigenous lens. We use our moon phases. We use we go through sugar bush, wild rice. All of those activities, that's how we meet the standards. We meet the standards through a very Ojibwe Indigenous lens. And just to give you like a small example, our program is not just Ojibwe students. We have white American students in there as well, but it's majority Indigenous students. And I feel like having that type of environment is opening eyes to non-Indigenous people and valuing our language and our ways and bringing forth a lot of respect as they grow older. And so I just want to say miigwech for the opportunity to share with you all. And I want to definitely say miigwech to all of our students in Masabekong. They're up-and-coming language warriors. We have to support them. And I want to say miigwech to all of our families who support their students in taking our language back, because that's what we need to do. Miigwech mio.
Miigwech Edie Washington. Another victory for our ancestors who, in the boarding schools, were punished for speaking the language. We almost lost our language. And so these efforts to keep our language going is truly a victory for our ancestors. Our next speakers is Michelle Defoe and Mary Villiard. We want to acknowledge our local artists in our community. They've been doing a lot of work. Can you come up?
Hi everybody, Bonjour. Mary Villiard. I'm a visual artist here in the community, a Fond du Lac direct descendant, and also on the Indigenous Commission and one of the, lead coordinators of the Chief Buffalo Memorial murals that have been happening down by the lake. Wow.
Bonjour, Nindinoe Maganidu, Marshkanuje and Dudem, Squabi Kong and Dunjaba, Wabanango Kwe Indigenous Kanago. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Michelle Defoe in English. My clan is Muskie. I'm from the Red Cliff Anishinaabe Nation in Wisconsin. However, I've been living in Duluth for 20 plus years, so this is my home now.
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk a little bit about the history of Chief Buffalo and why we decided to do those murals. It was a project that actually started back in 2019 with a pilot project. And actually, even before that, I think it was kind of an idea that was sort of floating around the universe and people's minds, and the right people sort of came together back in 2019. And initially, I think, in that before time, Chief Buffalo's eldest descendants had come to Duluth and talked about wanting to see more art and representation in the city of Indigenous stories, and specifically Chief Buffalo's story and the significance to here. And that story includes him at almost 100 years old in 1852, taking a journey to Washington, D.C. to talk to the president at that time, because the government of the Minnesota Territory essentially had enacted basically the Ojibwe Trail of Tears, the Sandy Lake tragedy, which led to the deaths of over 300 people in Minnesota, Ojibwe people, through this big march and a lot of lies and policy stuff that had happened. And so he saw that happening and said, that's enough. He'd signed a lot of treaties up until that point, and in his old age made a journey by canoe, by train. Took multiple years to get down to DC for the chance at talking to the president. It was a chance. And so that's why, he got the treaty signed, and essentially that's the reason any of us are here today, and it's a significant part of the history of the land here in Duluth. And I encourage you to look into that history more on the internet, ask people in the community, and visit the space, as we hopefully are going to complete it in the next, couple weeks before the cold weather kicks in. But it's been a really sort of life-altering project that started, with the Buffalo family wanting that visibility, and the Indigenous Commission also doing this work around visibility. And also, we got a lot of funding from the American Indian Community Housing Organization towards the end of the project. They're also doing a lot of work in visibility. You see their billboards and some of their posters being handed out today. Woo! And Ivy and Jasmine and the whole crew is here. So we have a lot of, ACO is one of those groups too that's really been supporting artists and arts programming in the community. And I don't know if you guys know this, but we have just an amazing arts movement, Indigenous arts movement that's based here in Duluth, and it's spreading like wildfire, and it's really awesome to see. So it's just really cool to be a part of that. And I'll stop talking shortly, but I just want to acknowledge, obviously, Michelle Defoe, and she's going to talk too, but Michelle Defoe is one of our lead artists. She's been working on the florals, and she'll talk a little bit about that. Our two other artists are actually from Turtle Mountain, and they drive 18 hours every weekend to come and paint with us, just because scheduling got a little messed up towards the end here. And so that's a Wainagijik Bruce and Sylvia Hool. And then we have two artists who came on as volunteers that ended up being part of the team, and that's Mana Bolton and her partner Connor Fairbanks. So we're a big team of people trying to revitalize that space. And it was really cool the other day being down there and seeing that there was like more Native people just chatting and chilling and walking through that space than there were tourists, which is just really cool to be in that presence. So it was a good energy. And yeah, and then final thought, I don't know, Indigenous history is everybody's history here. You know, that's the history that connects us all. So keep that in mind as you're celebrating and thinking about today.
Bonjour, Minawat. Hello again. I'm just going to briefly talk about the florals on the wall. So, I was asked on by Miri to add to just one piece to the giant mural project, and so some people may have seen me painting down there. We've been down there almost every day, adding to the wall. It's a lot of work, but I absolutely love it. I love visiting with people while I'm down there. We have tourists come by. Some people know a little bit about Chief Buffalo. They know a little bit about the Indigenous history, and then there's people that don't really know anything. And so I've kind of been like a little tour guide as well as painting, because I'll bring them through and just talk about Chief Buffalo and the history there. So that's a really cool piece that we get to share the history with people walking by. And then we also have a lot of Native people that come through there, and just the comments that they make about how it makes them feel at home and peaceful and like it's a sacred space. So that's another added piece, how we were able to create that space for the Native people here. But the florals are not just flowers. So yes, they're pretty. They're pretty to look at, and they add beauty to the space for sure. But there's a deeper piece to that, which is that what Edie was talking about too, our language and our culture within our art as well. Our culture is within that. So our unique worldview as Anishinaabe people comes through our songs, our ceremonies, our language, and our art. And so the flowers are not just flowers, but they are a reminder that we are connected, a small piece of the universe, and that the plant life and the medicines and the animal life were here before us. And so we have a tremendous amount of respect for that, and it's a reminder of that respect that we've always had, and acknowledging all of the life around us, not just centered around humans, and as well as the stories that are in those florals. So it's a reminder of our connection to the land, and that we have a duty and a responsibility to care for the land. But also family stories and community stories are woven into those designs. So we used to decorate our clothing, and if you look at some of the older designs in the Minnesota Historical Society, or some of the museums, or some of the pieces that people have from a long time ago, you'll see that each one of those has a story behind it. And sometimes they're family stories, and I tried to revitalize that a little bit in the designs that I was making, because we have a lot of modern designs too. But so I took the florals from some of those old patterns and I changed them up just a little bit, because I didn't want to just take someone's art, even if they're no longer here anymore. So I took those flowers and we made stencils out of them, and then we put our own creativity into that, each artist that worked on the flowers. And so part of that is how our ancestors viewed the world. I really wanted to bring that in instead of just painting my own vision in there. So that's the flowers that you guys see when you walk through there. Those are some traditional designs, they're older designs. And that's about all I have to say about the flowers. Miigwech Bizendoyeg.
Miigwech, Michelle, and Mary, for bringing visibility of the Indigenous people of this area. We have fought for that, and we still continue to fight for visibility. And so it's really important work they're doing, keeping the historic art going. All right, our next speaker is Jeff Boshey. He's going to talk about our efforts in our community, a really strong sobriety movement going on here.
My English name is Jeffrey Boshey. I just want to kind of touch about what we've been doing with the Duluth Sobriety Feast. I know with the pandemic and everything going on, it was very hard on the people to get into treatment centers and do anything kind of thing like that. We had a lot of homelessness, a lot of active addiction going on, a lot of alcoholism. It was very sad to see. And with that being said, we were able to team up with the Duluth Commission, Indigenous Commission, and myself and my significant other, we were able to get some help from some grants. I want to mention them to ACO. Thanks for your help. And we're running a sobriety feast every month. It's like a potluck style feast. I got some flyers here for anybody that attends any kind of halfway houses or other AA meetings, whatever, NA meetings. Please feel free to take one. I only have like 20 of them. But our meetings run at 6 o'clock every last Thursday of the month. Everybody's free to come. It's at One Roof Community Center. There you go on the side door to get in. And I just wanted to get the word out there that we're back, and we started it back last month, this past month, and it turned out great. It was real good to see a lot of people show up again. A lot of people missed it, so it would be nice to have more people come though. Thank you. Good.
Really appreciate Jeff Boshey and Francis Sacco, his significant other. You know, the Indigenous Commission plant seeds in the community, and they took it and they grew a beautiful thing. And their son, Jeffrey, is a keeper of the sobriety drum. So give support whenever you can. Our next speaker is Shawn Carr from the Tagway Recovery Center. A lot of people don't know about this, so listen up.
Bonjour, Shnabduk Anishinaabe, Me, Smaganesh, Indun Jaba, Metawakaton, Mayangan Dodem. My given name is Shawn Carr. My native name is Soldier, Simaganesh. I am Anishinaabe, Metawakaton. I'm coming to you today on behalf of the Tagway Recovery Program. Tagway, it's the name given to the healing program of the Fond du Lac Reservation. Tagway is a star that appears every month besides the moon. Tagway is a star that learns one never need walk alone, but one learns to walk on one's own. And what we mean by that is once you go through the program, we have a relapse recovery or prevention program. So after you graduate, if you're feeling weak, if you relapse, you're always welcome to come back and we'll help you through that. Tagway Recovery Center encompasses a treatment process that recognizes and accommodates the diversity of the Native American people. We also address the issues of historical trauma, cultural disruption, culturally specific, and evidence-based methods. Tagway also provides a holistic treatment approach that tends to the multiple needs of each client. Our program moves the individual into a better way of life, treating mind, body, and soul. The individual will receive health, medical, dental care, nutritional screening, and will also work with doctors, counselors, dietitians, fitness instructors, spiritual healers, and clergy. The program's cultural activities include sweat lodge, pipe ceremony, sobriety feasts, talking circles, grief ceremonies, and use of traditional medicines. We're located at the Center for American Indian Resources building at 221 West 4th Street. So if you are a loved one or in need of a spiritual direction towards your treatment, please come in, get an assessment, and see how we can help you. And next, I believe, is the reading of the proclamation.
Good, Shawn Carr. We're going to have the Mayor Emily Larson come up with some youth to read the proclamation.
Hey, I'm joined by Melvin and Skylar. So we are here to share, actually it's really an honor to be here with youth, and this is the history, this is the tradition to read this proclamation celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day in the city of Duluth with youth. And so, let's see, Skylar, you're going first, I think, right?
For many years, the second Monday in October has been recognized as Columbus Day. With little or no regard for the indigenous peoples who were already here when Columbus arrived.
The lore and legend of Columbus Day do not accurately reflect what happened to those indigenous people and the fate they collectively suffered and.
Whereas, it is important that citizens of Duluth know, understand, and honor the history of our indigenous population. Some of that history includes the shores of Lake Superior, upon which Duluth sits, was once home to an entire Anishinaabe village and is still home to many Anishinaabe people. The city of Duluth is grateful to these indigenous peoples and extends its acknowledgement for sacrifices made so that all other populations could enjoy the beauty and richness of Lake Superior's basin city. So now therefore we, Melvin and Skylar and Emily, on behalf of the city of Duluth, do officially proclaim October 11th, 2021 as Indigenous Peoples Day in the city of Duluth. Thank you, Melvin, and thank you, Skylar. When I arrived today, my friend Kassie, standing behind me, reminded me that every day is Indigenous Peoples Day. That's right. And so what that reminded me is that there are some days that it's important to talk, and most days more important to listen. So my comments will be very short today. I want to thank the Indigenous Commission for who you are and for the truth you help us all tell about this community and who we are and who we have been and who we are becoming. I want to thank Alicia Kozlowski, who is on the forefront of so many things in our community and is such a powerful ally and leader with the city of Duluth. My best hope, let's give Alicia. President Van Nett really spoke beautifully about the resolution she is championing and bringing forward tonight, and you're going to hear from Senator Smith, and to me these are the two of the biggest pieces on the program today. But my best hope is that, we've heard the word visibility many, many times, and that is what we are striving to do in a good way as a city, is to tell a more honest, visible story. We are an incredible community that has been inhabited for centuries, and we have been incredibly tight-lipped about telling that whole story. We are also a community that has perpetuated trauma and injustice, and we are working hard in that good way to tell that story, to change ourselves, and to create a different path, because we have such beautiful kids who deserve a full life without the hindrances of that trauma and reminders by the governments around them. So my best hope is that you see that visibility happen in different ways. Whether it is the Martin Trail, Wabajishkana in West Duluth, whether it is the Mural. There are so many things that we are trying to do, and I want to just encourage you, keep pushing, keep telling us to do more, keep reminding us of the best community that we can be. We are in this with you, and miigwech. Thank you.
Miigwech, thank you, Emily Larson. And we're going to bring up Senator Tina Smith. And I got to tell you, it makes us feel so supported and cared for that you are here. Yes. Senator Tina Smith.
Thank you so much, Chair Sandman. And I've been holding this with me the whole program tobacco to be reminded that today is a day to speak from the heart. I am so humbled to be here with all of you today. I started the morning, very early in the morning, at B'dai in Minneapolis to begin the celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day with the sun rising over that beautiful lake. And then we came here, Onamagising. I'm working on my Anishinaabe to celebrate being here with all of you. And I am thinking about Council President Van Nett, and you said so many important things. I'm so proud to be standing here behind so many powerful Indigenous leaders, including Council President Van Nett, but also my dear friend and colleague, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, who I was with earlier this morning. And I'm also thinking about Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, who I stand behind today. To be able to lift up all of the work that needs to happen today, right now, is so important. Renee, you talked about giving me my walking orders. And I always listened, Renee. I must have been channeling your walking orders because I am a co-sponsor with my friend Elizabeth Warren of the Truth and Healing Commission, focused on understanding the legacy of the boarding school movement and what that means. What is important about this is to not only understand the truth, but also to then take action. You know, we are in short supply of action, I believe, these days. There is so much action that needs to be taken. And so that is my motivation from Renee and from these Indigenous women leaders and men leaders too. Skip, you talked about us being only two-legged creatures. And we have so much work to be done. Today, I'm also thinking about Edie and what Edie said. Edie talked about how her teaching is listening, and so this is what I heard today. I heard from Edie the power of the Ojibwe Mesobakan Immersion School and connecting language and history and culture in a way that gives children a real sense of who they are and what their connection is to this land and to their spirit. And that is an energy, a powerful energy, that will make so many contributions, not only to those children, but to all of their families and to all of us, both Indigenous, but also to non-Indigenous people. I am thinking about Michelle and Mary and your Chief Buffalo mural that you're working on, and the beautiful story about how this is art and it is beauty, but it is also connected to meaning and to a life view and a world view that is at the center of what we need. I am thinking, Jeff, about the Sobriety Feast and how in this moment of COVID has laid bare so many of the deep, deep challenges that humans face. And the work that you are doing, along with Shawn, Carr, and others, to connect people to the healing that they need is a powerful thing, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you. And to Emily and Skylar and Melvin, and your incredible reading of the proclamation, and reminding people, including not Indigenous people like me, about the deep history of this place is also very powerful. Thank you very much for inviting me to share this moment with you. I'm grateful to be with you all. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Senator Tina Smith, for those encouraging words.
Bonjour, everybody. My name is Brian Stillday Jr. I'm the co-chair of the American Indian Movement of Twin Ports in this area. I'm from Conemaugh, Minnesota, but I've been living in Fond du Lac in the Duluth area for the last 10 years. This little part of the state I consider my home. My son, my wife, all my sons are from Fond du Lac. They represent Fond du Lac the best way they can. I try to push them every way possible. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes they don't want to do it. I'll let him just chill out. But every day, every time my son dances, it's because he wants to, and he dances for his grandma, his grandpa, his grandma and grandpa that are up there that have the best seats in the house right now. I'm just proud of him that he keeps the song for us, and he helps me a lot when he dances, and I'm just so proud of my son, Stillday, and he's one of the royalty for the local schools out in Cloquet, the Fond du Lac Ojibwe school. He represents the Pokey Pero Junior Brave, which he's held the title for like 4 years. It's hard to get kids involved, and that may be the reason why he's had it for 4 years. But I tell him to tell his friends, include your friends whenever we got the drums out, whenever you got your outfit out. Invite them over, learn, teach them. Do what you can to keep our traditions alive, our culture alive. Because when I go, it goes with me. But what I pass on with him, he'll keep forever. My family, my 7 boys, and my wife that I got, they keep me going. And I'm proud to be from Duluth. I'm proud to rep Boshey. And I want to say miigwech to everyone for coming. My son, Stillday, he represents the grass dance. He's been dancing pretty much grass dance his whole life. Pretty much he's on his 3rd outfit. And yeah, he's 10 years old. He's been dancing ever since he could walk. And yeah, just see what he got to show you guys here. Also, the grass dance, from what I kind of know, is from like beginning of gatherings or like powwows. The grass will be thick like this, and they'll call out the grass dancers to go out there and stomp out the arena, stomp that grass down, get it all smooth, flat. And that's what I'm pretty sure that's what the dance comes from. I'm still learning, like I said, I don't know everything, but I'm learning so I can pass it on to my sons. Miigwech.
Sugar Bush and Skylar for those sweet songs and that exhibition dance. Can you feel it? Just gets you going. I want to just get up there and dance. And that's how it is when you come around us and come to one of our powwows. It just livens you up and lifts the spirit, the heartbeat of the earth. Big witch. Next, we're going to have Twin Ports AIM Support Group.
Bonjour, everyone. I'm actually here wearing 3 different hats today. I'm co-chair on the Indigenous Commission and the chair of AIM Twin Ports Support Group, which, as Babette said, I didn't start it. It wasn't me. It was part of it. And I'm also here as the president of All Nations Indigenous Center. The AIM Twin Ports Support Group, we've been around for a year and a half now, haven't we? A year and a half. We started here in Duluth. And we just kind of want to let you know about some of the things that we've done. I know there's a lot of people in the community that have been involved with some of our things also. We work to help the homeless, providing food and even shelter whenever possible. Our number one concern is keeping our people safe. And yes, we are Indigenous, but that doesn't mean we're going to ignore someone else if they need help. We help everyone we can. And this is something that we could not be doing without the support from our community. And I, for one, can tell you there's no way I could do it without the support of this guy next to me. I am so proud of this family. I can't even express it. 7 boys. That wasn't a slip. He actually did say 7 boys. And he is raising those boys to know their traditions, to know the true history, and raising them to be good, respectful young men. Brian works hard at that, along with the help of his lovely wife over there, Maya, holding their newly turned 1-year-old. So some of the other things that AIM does, we do patrols. We did our year pilot program. Backpack giveaway. Don't make me sick.
She gets shaky voice when we get on the mic.
I don't like the mic.
But yeah, I'm Brian Stillday Jr. I'm the co-chair of American Indian Movement Twin Ports. We started in like a year and a half ago. Our main concern was we started around when the riots were happening in Minneapolis, and there was word or something grew up through the highway saying that people were going to start targeting the businesses around here. There's a lot of indigenous businesses around here that could have or possibly got hit if it was to happen. There's not a lot of, we don't have a lot of people on foot patrol. What you see up here is what we pretty much got. So we do what we can. Duluth is a pretty big city. We used to be in the hillside area on the 4th Street over at the One Roof. There's a lot of homeless relatives over there. Just basically on the 4th Street, anywhere in Duluth, you're gonna see a homeless person. So we don't only pick out one spot. We were at the 4th Street, One Roof. Then we kind of branched out. Now we're where I was staying out west in Duluth in Lincoln Park. We just hosted a backpack giveaway this past summer. And when I joined to just show my kids and everybody, the young ones and the people around the community, that people can change. Because if I wasn't to have my kids or my wife, I probably wouldn't even be standing here right now. I was following a different path at the time, 10 years ago. My son, Skylar, my son, Xavier, Bryson, my 3 older ones at the time, they really saved me. My wife saved me. We were just boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, but she's my wife. These are my beautiful kids. And I joined this to just do it for the kids. my point of being a part of this is look out for the youth. Make sure they have a role model to look up to, because not everybody has their dad. Most people are raised by their uncles, grandpas. My grandpa had a little spot in my life where he took care of me for a while. So I know how it is. I know how it feels to not having to look up to. So I want to be that person for these younger generations and for anybody in general that needs some help. That I don't care the color of your skin, what you follow, what your religion is. I'm here for you. I'm willing to help you out whenever I can. I got 2 ears that listen kind of well, except when my wife's talking, but whenever my kids are hollering around, then they don't work too well. But yeah, I'm hoping to keep the group around here for a while. I just recently moved to Superior, so now I'll be in Superior. We'll probably do some stuff around there. I know there's relatives that way too. So, but yeah, I do it from the heart. I do it for the love of this city, and I do it for the kids, and I do it for my people.
We also forgot to pop up powwows. We do pop up powwows also. So if anybody sees any of those events coming up, please join. We invite everybody. As I said, our number one concern is keeping our people safe in any way possible. You know, police can't be everywhere, and some people aren't comfortable calling them. We get calls, and we go. Being Twin Ports is going to be around for a long time. You know, it's Twin Ports because it's the whole area, not just Duluth, not just Superior. We go all the way out to Fond du Lac, wherever else we're needed. And just a quick word about All Nations. So All Nations Indigenous Center, our current project is working, we're doing fundraising to open a new Indian center here in Duluth. And in addition to that, we have Renee Van Nett, who is the treasurer, busy lady. She's been working with youth at Lighthouse, doing beadwork and teaching them to make their own regalia and helping them to reconnect in ways that they may not otherwise have an opportunity to. Thank you.
So now call up our last speaker, and then we're going to move into the Sugar Bush traveling song. Renee Goodwich, Native Lives Matter Coalition.
Bonjour, and the way Magana do. Shagate Eaji Kintago Anishinaabe Moen. My name is Renee Goodrich, and I'm here supporting this awesome event with the local community, the community leaders, and we're so honored to be able to come out and help support. We're supporting with the red dresses to honor missing and murdered Indigenous peoples today on Indigenous Peoples Day. We have the red dresses and we have the red t-shirts and red clothing to represent the children that are lost also. So that is the red dress displays. Also, you'll see women that are carrying red shawls. We have several red shawl groups that are supporting, and that is to bring visibility and support to honor survivors of violence. The red shawls were created, the solidarity shawls were created by Men in the Sacred Hoop and women of the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition. I'm a member of the coalitions, both tribal coalitions. There's also red shawls being carried from Native Lives Matter Coalition, the red for MMIW shawls, and there's red shawls that are being carried and represented by the Twin Ports AIM support group. So Chimigwech for helping to bring that visibility to this ongoing epidemic with the red dresses and carrying the red shawls, and to let family members of MMIWG2S, family members of missing and murdered Indigenous peoples, and the community that's impacted, to let them know that their loved ones are not forgotten. Today we honor the missing and murdered Indigenous peoples on this day. Chi miigwech.
Miigwech Renee Goodrich for always bringing these red dresses, and she's also does an orange shirt display for the boarding school survivors, the children who didn't make it, and families. Miigwech Rayanne Goodrich. Miigwech for being here today on this great day, Indigenous Peoples Day. We're going to end with a traveling song.